refrigeration swelled the populations of New York, Philadelphia, and other eastern urban centers in the 1840s and 1850s. Local beef suppliers could not keep up with the surging demand for meat. Meanwhile, the conquest of the Great Plains had enabled ranchers to breed massive herds of cattle, but there were far fewer people around to feed. You could ship live cattle by train to the eastern states to be slaughtered locally, but transporting entire cows was expensive, and the animals often became malnourished or even injured en route. Almost half would be inedible by the time they arrived in New York or Boston. Ice helped reset the balance and bring meat to more mouths. In 1868, the Chicago pork magnate Benjamin Hutchinson built an innovative new packing plant. It featured cooling rooms full of ice so that pork could be chilled, packed, and shipped all year round. Hutchinson's cooling rooms inspired other entrepreneurs to integrate ice-cooled facilities into the meatpacking trade. Some companies began transporting beef back east in open-air rail cars during winter, relying on the outside temperature to keep the steaks cold. In 1878, Gustavus Franklin Swift hired an engineer to build an advanced refrigerator train car. It was designed from the ground up to transport beef to the eastern seaboard year-round. Ice was placed in bins above the meat. At stops along the train route, workers swapped in new blocks of ice from overhead without disturbing the meat below. Breakthroughs in railway refrigeration led to new possibilities for refrigerator ships. Chicago's meat business went global. The explosive success of the meat trade transformed the landscape of the American plains. Vast, shimmering grasslands were replaced by industrial feedlots. In Chicago's stockyards, 14 million animals were slaughtered in an average year. The route from grim feedlot to bloody stockyard assembly line to long, cold, refrigerated trains led to the creation of the industrial food complex. Ice made a new kind of food network imaginable. Yet even in the middle of the 19th century, when coal-fired factories, railroads, telegraphs, and other innovations were rapidly changing the way people lived and worked, the ice business was still entirely based on old technology, cutting chunks of frozen water out of a river, lake, or pond. A century into the Industrial Revolution, artificial cold was still a fantasy. The commercial demand for ice, all those millions of dollars flowing upstream from the tropics to the ice barrens of New England, sent a signal out across the world that there was money to be made from cold, which inevitably sent some inventive minds off in search of the next logical step. And once again, another chapter of the story of cold begins somewhere hot, this time featuring a new character, the mosquito. A new kind of cold. If you live alongside a swamp in a subtropical climate, you're living alongside mosquitoes, lots of them. And where there are mosquitoes, there can be malaria. In 1842, in a modest hospital in Apalachicola, Florida, Dr. John Gorey was desperate for a way to help his patients who had been bitten by mosquitoes and were burning up with malarial fever. He suspended blocks of ice from the hospital ceiling, which cooled the air and thereby the patients. But Gorey's clever solution was undermined by another natural element in Florida: hurricanes. When these storms caused a string of shipwrecks and delayed ice shipments, Gorey's supply of ice ran out. The young doctor began mulling over a more radical solution for his hospital: making his own ice. Up until the middle of the 19th century, the smartest mind in the world couldn't have invented a refrigerator. The necessary building blocks just weren't there yet. But by 1850, the pieces had come together. Engineers learned more about how heat and energy are converted from the steam engine. Tools for measuring heat and weight with increased precision were developed, along with standardized scales such as Celsius and Fahrenheit. This information was all available to Gorey, which helped him form the new connections needed to build of refrigeration machines.